Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today, and thank you, Moshana and Anirban sir, for agreeing for the session. Um, so I will give a brief introduction, and then we can start. Just to give you a little about the session, we will have a discussion first where sir and man will share about this admissions related, how to prepare for admissions for MA and PhD at the school, and during that time you can write your questions in the chat box, which we will read after the session, and then they can answer the questions, and we can have a small discussion after that. Um, so Moshe ma'am is associate professor at Delhi School of Economics. She's on leave now, and I think mine was second last batch, which she left in December 2023. And we welcome you, ma'am, for the session. Anirban sir is also associate professor at Delhi School of Economics, and his work has been around political economic and economy and development economics. And we look forward to the session with two of the most approachable professors at Delhi School of Economics. Um, so yeah, I think let's start, Arshini.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we can start with Anirban sir, if that's okay. I whatever works for ma'am and sir.
Yeah,
No,
Anirban, go ahead.
no, how exactly? No, I think a few questions probably would be, get me a sense of, uh, yeah, I mean, what kind of queries all of you have.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's slightly, the topic is, slightly wide ranging, so it would be better if you can narrow it down slightly. So, and in that sense, few queries to begin with probably would be better. Then I get a
Hmm.
sense.
Yes, sir. So I think the idea was for the session to understand how to prepare for master's entrance, what to focus on, and especially for the students who are from with non-DU background, how they should be preparing for the entrance. And there isn't much information about PhD admission, so if you could share what is the how to prepare for it and whether proposal is required when you apply, interview, whether there is a reservation when admitting in PhD program or not. So this was the idea that we had. We do have some questions which, Arvind, would you like to share some of the questions that you had so that we can start with that?
Aditi, I just have a quick clarification. So I'm seeing all these names here, Rupali, Umesh, Sarajini, and so on. So all of them are aspiring MA students or PhD students. So what exactly is the status? I don't know them. So I just wanted to know the background of the people who are attending this meeting, other than you, me, Arushi, and Anirban.
Yes, ma'am. So some of them are aspiring to get admission in masters, and some of them are applying, trying to get into PhD programs.
I see.
Yeah, yeah. So
But from non-DU, from Delhi University or from elsewhere, or it's mixed?
some of them I know are from DU. They're completing their BA in economics, and some of them are non-DU.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And when or this group, and I'm referring to the entire group, and you can also hear me, so you can respond directly. Those who are part of this group, doesn't have to come through via Aditi. Is that so when we are talking about entrance exam in either the MA or PhD program, Are you thinking about generally only Delhi school or more broad-based kind of thing? You know, there are other institutions which are also very good. So if you're really preparing for that at one level, maybe it will be good to look at all of them together. ISI, JNU, and so on. So do you have something, or your focus is only on Delhi school? So that also it will be good to get some clarity on that also. I mean, their preparation would be, or way to prepare would be related, but whatever you might want to decide what to focus on. This is for the other people who are attending the meeting.
Hello, ma'am. So I think we can start with DSC first, and then later maybe some other institutions, and like we can start from preparation for masters, basically what study material to refer and how exactly to prepare for the entrance exam.
Okay, okay. Okay, let me start, and then probably you will have queries, and then we can have more sort of concrete discussion. But let me start with, say, the sort of broadly the syllabus of DSE entrance test. Uh, so these are all multiple choice questions that you will face in DSE entrance test, and the multiple choice questions will come. Probably you are already familiar with this. I'm repeating it, but just for the sake of completeness, let me continue with this broad discussion. Is that yeah, so the multiple choice questions will be from microeconomics, macroeconomics, mathematics, including statistics and econometrics, and so did I cover everything? Yeah, macro, math, statistics, and econometrics. Uh, I mean, you can think of statistics and econometrics together. So it's basically equally, almost equally distribution of weights on macro, maths, and econometrics plus statistics. So four areas, lagvag equal weightage. Now, so let me talk about first micro and maths. So for micro and for micro, for example, it's good to follow. I mean, it's ideal to follow the due syllabus, and for everything, I guess it's ideal to follow the due undergrad syllabus, and also the textbooks that are taught in due undergraduate program. So in maths, for example, Sitter Hammond is the textbook. So you know the starting point for preparation should be that. Similarly, for micro, the book, or there are a couple of books that are taught in the undergraduate program, uh, Snyder, Nicholson, and Varian. So once again, it would be good to follow these books. For probability and statistics, I think now the book that is taught is Devore, J. So probability and stat for engineers. So once again, that book would be, I can write it down in chats, or already Aditi and I mean, Arushi, they would know about it, so they can just pass on this information to you. It's also available in the DSE handbook. So The suggested textbooks are already there. And the handbook is available on the D-School website. The other thing to start your preparation from is the past questions, and that will past admission test questions, because that will give you a sense of questions that usually are asked in the entrance test. So to begin with, I would say that you have these textbooks, the due undergrad syllabus, and these past entrance test questions. Now, once you start preparing for it, initially, at the very beginning, the past entrance test questions may look a little bit daunting. Now, that happens. I mean, that's okay. If it looks daunting, don't worry. But once you start preparing and once you have a better grip on the subject, you will see that these are essentially some problem based on the material that are taught in undergraduate program. So it looks initially daunting because the kind of question that are asked is slightly different from that you face in undergraduate exam. So undergraduate exams, the problems, I mean, sometimes there are not many problems are asked, not many. So sometimes the questions are descriptive. But here, since all the questions are multiple choice, I mean, these are problem based. So so the preparation is all that's why the preparation is also slightly different. And but the material covered in the undergraduate and this will be the same anyway. So to be slightly more specific, let's think about micro. I think that is the easiest portion in the DSE entrance test. I mean, that 25% or sometimes slightly more on micro is probably the easiest portion in the entrance test. So the preparation, the way it differs from, say, undergraduate exams would be to solve problems. So look at these two textbooks that I have mentioned, Varian and Snyder and Nicholson. They cover the same material. So the material wise, topic wise, they are not different. They will be covering the same topics, exactly same topics: consumer, production, competitive market, monopoly, etc., etc. So general equilibrium. So the coverage is exactly the same. So when you are reading the material, probably there are a few things here and there which are different. And again, once again, you can follow the detailed syllabus of the due undergraduate courses, and which once again Arushi and Aditi can help you to get. So these the topic wise they are not very different, and you don't really need to read the material from these two books. What you need to do from these two books is once you are familiar with the material, once you are familiar with the topics, once you have read the topic from one book perhaps, is to solve problems. And there are the number of exercises in these two books, or you can find a number of questions even online. There are good resources that are available. Of course, as I said, the past admission test questions. So it's once you have understood the material, once you have understood the material, then it's about practicing more problem. And as you solve problems and independently, see some examples to begin with, see some examples, the worked out examples that are done in the textbook. So you get but then once you are familiar with that, start solving the questions independently on your own. initially you will probably get stuck. But that really doesn't matter. Look, get back to the solved examples, and then try to rework on that. So that is probably the key. And this, for micro part, is essentially you can score you full in this part. These are all, I would say, very easy problem based questions, which if you practice you can definitely locate. And remember, you don't, I mean, in the entrance exam, you don't necessarily have to answer all the, I think now there are 50 questions or 100 questions. What? It's changed structure. So yeah, so but you don't need to answer all 100, all the questions. Often, I would think solving 50% of the questions correctly, would be enough to get admission. So and that way, I mean, ensuring you get the all the micro questions correct. And I repeat, this is the easiest bit. If you practice, this is the easiest bit. So that and I think should be one focus. About maths, once again, the material is undergraduate material, and the focus is once again on problem solving. But for maths, the sometimes what happens is that there are some questions which involves manipulation and a little bit of trick, and that if it strikes you, then it strikes you, and if it doesn't, in the, I'm talking about during the exam, if it strikes you, it does. But sometimes it doesn't. Probably if you are given 3 more hours, you will solve it. But within that short span of time, sometimes it doesn't occur to you that this a particular manipulation would solve that problem. So maths, in that sense, I mean, maths is also easy, but I'm saying that unlike micro, sometimes maths depends on a particular manipulation, and that manipulation doesn't always necessarily occur to us during an exam. So as far as the preparation is concerned, once again, the focus should be on problem solving. Read the material from this textbook, follow the due syllabus, and solve problems. And in maths, I'm also including probability. So in maths, there are always some probability questions are asked, and so that will be part of the statistics textbook. But the probability questions, I have a feeling that over the years, on average, I think the probability questions are slightly probably even easier. They don't so much depend on manipulation than the say maths question on linear algebra, for example. So once again, this is not saying that you should always try the probability question first, but probably if you uh, if you are preparing for the subject, prepare for the probability part as much as the other topics, such as functions, I mean, calculus and linear algebra. So don't ignore the probability questions. So that's broadly how to prepare. Once again, the key is to solve problems. Look at solved examples, but once you have done that, try to solve problems on your own. When you do that, no, I mean, sort of that's the key to key to cracking the entrance test, I guess. Now, this is the broad thing. I mean, if you have more specific, more sort of specific queries, I can address that later.
Yeah, so we have one question. Institution like JNU provide entrance coaching for applicants. Do DSE provide such coaching facility?
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether JNU offers, JNU itself as an institution offers.
I know the student union, yeah.
Yeah, the students too. Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, whether the DU students have started, DSE students have started that, but no. I mean, I guess this is one such initiative.
Okay, so we do have some questions, sir, but I think that would be best if we ask them after Moshina has shared her thoughts, so that if they have similar questions, we can answer them collectively. So, ma'am, could you start?
Yeah. So the only thing that I want to add with Anirban's, I think Anirban's suggestions are all exactly what I would suggest. But for macro, mine would be specifically macro because Anirban has covered the other two. So for macro, again, follow the Delhi University textbook. But my sense is that the first and second year macro courses are pretty much everybody across the country to follow those, and they are pretty similar. ISLM, aggregate demand, aggregate supply. There aren't any big surprises there in the due syllabus. You might be doing it from other books, but you might want to look at the blue books that's there in the described in the due syllabus, like Blanchard, Evelyn, Bernanke, and so on. So it's only because, again, as Anirban said, go to problem solving first, develop the concept. Macro concepts, basic macro concept develop in the first year and the second year also are pretty basic. So if you are covering them through some other book in your undergrad courses, that's also fine. You can easily move to this book. I'm saying this book only because sort of there are problems and which are sometimes specific to this book, which an Indian book may not cover. So it's therefore and it's easy to relate to them once you know that. I think the probably the most should I say the common part which is typically taken up for questions in any of these entrance tests is the growth part, which comes in the third year of the syllabus. And there I would suggest specifically two books which are covered in the undergrad syllabus. DU has Charles Jones' book. Charles Jones is slightly mathematical. The treatment is mathematical. Concepts are all the same, but the treatment it involves dynamic equations and so on. But if you are initially to begin with not very comfortable with that, then I would prescribe another book which is by David Weil. David Weil is very sort of accessible and so on, much more than Jones. So these are, and I'm saying these two only because these growth questions are typically the ones which are amenable to sort of many admission test questions if you just pick them up, not only for DSE but also for ISI and JNU and so on. You will see that growth models are very easy to sort of people can give you numerical questions and so on and so forth. So they are very popular among the paper setters to pick up as entrance test questions. So I would say that we put a little bit more emphasis on this third part because ISLM and so on are easy and you'll be able to cover them. I don't think there would be any big challenge if there are questions from ISLM and so on. Having said that, again, as Anirban said, I think macro also is easily doable if you know the concept. So like micro, I mean, there's only so much that one can ask. It's not as if there's a great variation in the question that's possible because it's going to come from a specific topic. So therefore, this is again something where you can score well. If you know the if you know the model and then somebody gives you a numerical example based on that, then you should be able to do that. So that's when again, as Anirban said, so first all the books will have the conceptual framework, but question will typically be involved numerical. So therefore, once you study the model, then going back to the exercises, looking up the question papers, what kind of questions are being asked from there, those will allow you to see and practice and sort of, prepare yourself. So I think for macro, that would be my suggestion. For other parts, I mean, math, as Anirban said, that, math is not necessarily, unlike micro and macro. Math probably can be sort of, anything. It can be based on high school algebra also. Math is not necessarily covered in terms of only from the undergrad textbook. So in that sense, you have to be a little bit more open towards other things. It's not as if that all questions will come only from the topics that are there in 6th and Hammond. There can be very conceptual things which you probably, had it been your high school exam, you would have done well, but now you have forgotten those concepts and so on. So you might want to brush up a little bit after looking at the question. So other than that, I don't have any other suggestion. I think Anirban has explained it very well how one should prepare for this. The one big question is that if you get stuck, how are you going to get sort of, suppose you try and you can't solve it, how to get help and so on. But that I suppose Aditi and Arushi are going to talk about. Unlike JNU, I remember, at least in my time, Student Union and all the senior PhD scholars would chip in terms of taking tutorials. But I don't think there is any such organized effort at Delhi University. But you have your seniors here, Aditi and Arushi are here. So maybe they can come up with a system and involve some of us also. We would be happy to chip in to have problem solving sessions when you get stuck. Basically, you have to solve it yourself, but of course, and at times you wouldn't know how to proceed, and then there a little bit of hand-holding help. So that's all that I have to add to what Anirban said.
Yeah, so we have another. Many students are not comfortable with language. So how important is to know the language for the curriculum and for program?
And so many students are not comfortable in being taught in English.
Yeah, English, and all the lectures are in English, and many students from B community are from Hindi medium background. So it get really hard for them to.
Challenging, yeah. So Arvind, that's going to be a challenge everywhere, and somehow I think that's where you need. Some teachers might be willing to. So if one is that wherever you go, be it Delhi School, be it ISI, be it JNU, wherever you go, I think no matter how hard it seems, you should try to connect and approach the teachers. Even if you feel that they don't seem readily approachable, it's their job. They have to do it. If you go and tell them that, look, we don't understand, you have to explain, they have to. There's no way that anybody, approachable or not, anybody can. It's their job. We are being paid for that. Okay, so keep that in mind. That approaching your teacher is your right. I think you can always approach them and tell them that, look, I don't understand this language, so can you just explain it to me? Part of the reason could be that the teacher might not herself or himself be very good at explaining things in Hindi, but that's okay. I mean, he or she can always try. That will not happen in classroom though, because the classroom in all these places, classroom teaching has to be in English. That basically is the, that is the standard norm. And I don't know whether that's a rule, a university rule, but I think that's the norm. So, but you can always seek help from the teachers themselves, and I insist that you should approach teachers, and then there are help from your seniors and so on. I insist that you should approach teachers because I've seen that people are hesitant in approaching teachers, and I feel that that hesitation shouldn't be there, because as I said, getting across the student as a teacher is the primary job of the teacher. There is no getting away from that. So you have to exercise your right to go and approach the teacher and say that I don't understand, I have a language problem. Can you just try to make an effort to so that I understand? Go ahead, Aditi.
There are two things. Sorry, Aditi. There are two things here I want to add. One is that now, I mean, one positive that came out of this pandemic is that now that we have, you know, at least temporarily have moved to the online mode, but even when we get back to the face-to-face mode, you know, teachers are, you know, have become comfortable and have open to sort of posting video recording of their lectures. I mean, I myself was very reluctant to do that, but now I am open to it. So I think this will remain, and you know, once the videos are posted, then you have the luxury to, or the freedom to, you know, watch it several times, and the language becomes you know, a sort of not as much barrier as it is, you know, when you are in the classroom during the lectures. So that's one thing I think is going to stay and will reduce the problem. The other thing is that which was always there is that many of the papers in the school and ISI also guess are problem based. I mean, when you the exams are problem based, by that I mean. So you don't need to be, you know, writing essays in English. So that way, I think it's a less of a challenge than say in JNU, for example. And I know students who prefer to take problem based papers, optional papers, rather than more descriptive optional. So yeah, so these are the two things which I wanted to add.
Yes, sir. So my question was regarding this only, that in masters we have problem solving, so the problem with language can be handled to some extent. But just wanted to connect this with PhD related questions also, that how important language becomes when you are applying to a PhD program at D school or similar schools like ISI or IJER. How important English requirement becomes, and what are the other prerequisite, for example, marks, people, publications, or all these things, how important these things become when you're applying to PhDs?
For sorry, for entrance test, it's not. I mean, look, in D school and ISI, I guess even in JNU, the entrance tests are mostly problem based. So you are not asked to write essays. So in that sense, once again, the language itself, it's less of a problem. It's less of a barrier for entrance exam. But once you are in a PhD program, once you are writing a thesis, it will be in English. But you will get also 5 years to, you know, to improve your language skill. So yes, finally it will be required once, you know, when you are writing your thesis. But that's a, you know, you get a long time to for that. So
Also, once you have, sorry, Anirban, go ahead.
yeah, they are your friends to help. I mean, this was a problem to, you know, for me. I mean, I have faced it. So
Yeah.
I can tell you that, yeah, it's a problem, but you learn, and there are friends around you to help you. So no, it's not a major barrier.
No, also your advisor will be there to, you know, they'll sort of guide you towards that. So once you get into the program, I don't think language is going to be in the PhD program. Language is going to be a big deal, and people learn. Again, economics is one subject, as Anirban said, where language is important, but other things are also. When you are running a regression, you are showing a table. So there's not, you know, so, and then you can just explain that in a basic language. It doesn't have to be very classic or anything. So there is economics is in that sense easy, but you have to, of course, your thesis will be in English. You have to learn that. But once you get into the program, there will be help around, including your advisors and so on, who are going to read what you have written and guide you, you know, telling you how to fine tune it better and so on. So that's not going to be a big problem. If it's a medium of instruction, which is a problem, then as Anirban said, that you can watch the videos multiple times, and then if you get stuck, then you can approach the teacher and so on. Or your friends. But taking an exam, especially in the core courses, except for a couple of courses like Indian economy and so on, in all across all institutes, language is not a big deal because it's mostly going to be problem solving. So even if you don't write anything but get the problem, correctly solved, then you typically get marks for that. And for PhD program, I think some of this, I don't know. I mean, Delhi School also has a system of getting proposals and so on. I think JNU definitely has when you go for the interview. ISI, I think, doesn't ask for any proposal. Typically, ISI interview again will try to test your skill, not necessarily language skill. Again, your problem solving skill. JNU has a system of asking for proposal, but it's just maybe even a paragraph usually does, just to get the idea across. They're not testing your language skill. Typically, they're trying to see whether you can think about independent ideas. And for that, language is not a barrier. You can think in Hindi, you can explain in Hindi. Similarly, in the interview in Delhi School also, you can explain your concept in Hindi. I think that's not going to be a big deal.
There is a question in the chat box also. This is regarding reservation, and so my question was around application process in general and selection that I asked earlier also, that what are the factors that determine admissions into the school? Is it only the entrance-based score, or master scoring plays an important role? Ma'am, you said that proposal is not needed. So what exactly is the factor which plays an important role if we are trying to get into the school PhD program?
So this school PhD program, Anirban, do you remember if there's any cutoff? After that, I think it's all entrance and interview marks. After that, after the cutoff, once that allows you to apply. Anirban, do you remember? I don't think the marks matter after that. Till last year, I don't.
You have to satisfy the eligibility criteria that you.
Yeah. But beyond that, I don't think
Beyond that, no. Beyond that, no. I mean, it's only
whether you get 60%, 55% or 70% or 80%, it really doesn't matter. Your entrance exam marks matter and your interview marks matter. So I think both of them matter. I don't remember I think the weightage varies from year to year, depends on the admission committee, but both will matter. But again, remember, interview will be more on trying to test your understanding of the concept rather than the language or ability to express yourself in English.
So yeah, so I was wondering if you can share something about exactly how this process happened, like during the interview of when someone applies for PhD.
So in the interview for PhD program, I mean, you will be asked some basic questions that that you are supposed to learn during your postgraduate program. I mean, basic questions on micro, macro, or say econometrics. So these are the three areas for PhD: micro, macro, econometrics. So questions on these three areas, and probably you will also be asked about which of these areas do you like, and then maybe you will be asked whether you have read some papers on your own in this area, or depending on if you have a proposal with you, some sort of write-up, then maybe a one-page write-up, then you will be based on that you will be asked what you have read on that topic. So yeah, I mean, some questions on the key concepts which are at the postgraduate level, and some questions depending on which may depend on your proposal. Even if it is a one-page proposal, that doesn't matter. So we just want to get an indication that, it's not a proposal that you thought last night, is that you have invested some time on that.
And how important is to have a JRF fellowship for PhD program?
No, if you're, in your previous question, Mausumi may want to add something. Yeah, and then
Mausumi said she'll join in 5 minutes, sir. So.
Oh, I see. For fellowship, I think fellowship is very important because we don't have a good. I mean, we don't have any other source of funding outside that. We have a little, and from that we ourselves can. I mean, the school can fund just only one fellowship, so that we offer. But yeah, we don't have any independent source other than that one fellowship. So JRF, yes, I think is very important for financial security.
And what is the estimated expense during the program? Like if someone is from other state?
You say it's the, I guess if you're from other state, you will get a hostel, so that reduces your expenses. But it's just the living cost, in Delhi is quite high, and also probably you will need a, at some point of your PhD, you will need a laptop. I mean, although there is a very good, we do have very good computer lab, but PhD is such a thing where probably you will be working late at night, and I don't know, I mean, you probably would like to have that flexibility. So at some point of time, maybe towards the end, you probably need a laptop. So the expenses, the living expenses are quite high in Delhi. So given all this, I would say that for financial security of some kind of fellowship is important.
Yeah,
Now is
I'm back
actually
now.
asked a question.
Yeah, so what Anirban was saying about the interview, preparing for the interviews and proposal, right? So that's what you were commenting on earlier. I think, so yeah, so if you're writing a proposal, it really doesn't have to be 4 or 5 pages, but do a little bit of homework before you come, because if you write something, then you're giving the interview panel a hint that you can ask me from these. So if you don't do your homework, then for example, you are writing, something on environment. You have mentioned 2-3 papers on environment, and then you have to really read them. And if somebody says that, okay, what is the DSE and how is it related to, how do you want to take this forward, then you have to prepare yourself, put in some thought there. If you don't, and typically I know that Delhi school these days ask for a research proposal. So therefore, since it's mandatory, then you better do your homework before you go there. Because if you don't answer questions from your own, unable to answer questions from the proposal that you have put forward, then that's a bad negative signal. So nobody likes that. Other than that, as Anirban said, the questions will be, typically the way it goes everywhere. I've been in interview parents in JNU also, and I think ISI also is similar. They'll ask you about a field. If you are comfortable in micro, nobody is going to ask you a question about econometrics. So you have to suggest that. But once you specify the field, or maybe you can prepare a couple of fields also, then you again do a little bit of homework, because then they're going to ask you questions from that field, and then basic questions like master's level questions and so on. From the master's core courses textbook, but you should know a little bit about that. For example, if you say on micro game theory, then you should be able to solve some, game theoretic problems, or find out Nash equilibrium and stuff like that. So do your homework before you go. About the scholarship, I think Anirban is absolutely right. So you don't need UGC or JRF. You don't have to have UGC or JRF to enter, because it all depends on the entrances. but it's always important to have the scholarship. ISI, if you get into the ISI PhD program, they have their own fellowship. Every student gets a stipend there. So your financial needs are taken care of. Either JNU or D School or all the other central universities don't have that. I think IGIDR also has their own fellowship program, so they take care of the financial needs of the students. We at Delhi School and also in JNU, we don't. The central universities don't have such consolidated funds. So we, as Anirban mentioned, we ourselves we have a small pool of fund in Delhi School which we use to give one scholarship per year to one student. But that's only one scholarship. So it's better to have some other sources of fund. There are other scholarships also. There is one ICSSR fellowship which one can apply to. So you can look for those because that really becomes important to sustain yourself. The other route that sometimes people take is that they get into this, ad hoc jobs in the colleges in Delhi School, but that cannot happen. That can happen, but that typically hampers in your PhD coursework and so on, the learning process, especially in the initial years. So that's probably not something that you want to start your research career. It's easier to get a fellowship and then look for a
No,
job.
but also, yeah, Mausumi, the DU wants to essentially abolish those.
Exactly. I was just coming to that. That even the ad hoc positions are probably not going to be available for long, but there'll be RSship and other small jobs. But I don't think that's a good idea, at least in the first few years. If you're serious about your field, you can take it up later.
So, ma'am, that fellowship would act as a filter criteria, right? Those who do not have fellowship may have very little chances of getting into the program.
Sorry, come again.
I was saying the fellowship will act as a filtering criteria, right? Those without fellowship will not have
No.
good chance.
It's not. No. So admission is not contingent on fellowship at all. That's what I said. But if you have to sustain yourself, then you have to have some sources of funding. That's what I saying because Delhi is expensive. But if you can manage it from other sources without a fellowship, that's absolutely fine. For admission, that's not a criteria at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so like we have a question here. Can I take admission for PhD after some work experience? Any disadvantage associated with it?
Anirban, you want to take that up?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Apply for PhD program when you are sure you want to take it up seriously.
So we have cases, yeah, right, Anirban, remember, we have cases where people spend 2 years in the corporate sector and then decided that they want to go for PhD. We have cases in Delhi School, we have cases in ISI also. I remember one case in JNU as well. That's not a problem at all. But the only thing is that because one has to take the admission test in all these places, one has to prepare. While doing a corporate job, they'll have to prepare for that. And that's exactly similar to when people go abroad, take the GRE and so on. You have to prepare. But people, if they're motivated, they do that.
I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, I think the main problem, to be honest, that we face in our PhD program that many students join who are not very motivated, and it's not that they lack any ability, and so the crisis is, I mean, so the question that we would try to now get an answer to is that whether the applicant is motivated or not. So as much as possible from the interview process, some basic knowledge, and we look for indications that the candidate is motivated. And yeah, so it's better to, why this is related to your question is that it's better to join a program, a PhD program. It's true particularly about PhD because it's a long slog, 5 years. So yeah, it's better to join the program where you are absolutely sure rather than as the default option.
I think there's a question in the chat box from Rohit about whether you should write to the professors about any specific, emails and to find out in advance. The answer for Delhi School is no, and I guess that's true about other cases also, because the PhD supervisor allocation process happens much later after your coursework. And when you're entering the PhD program, you don't know, neither the professors know you well, nor you know them well. So in the whole idea of the coursework is that you get to know their areas. You decide whether you like to work in that area or close to that area or not. So my suggestion would be that if you start this communication before you enter the program, then it's kind of it's not it's a wastage of time. I think from the what do you know? You only know you have seen their website. You might have seen a couple of their publications. That's all. You don't know when they teach and you take their courses or you interact with them in seminars and so on. Then you get much further, deeper insight about their areas. Whether that's there has to be some kind of compatibility that doesn't happen over email. That happens through personal interaction. So I would suggest that you want to start that communication once you enter the program. Once you enter the program, then you should really try to see your professors and talk to them and find a matches. I don't know whether Anirban wants to.
Yeah. Oh,
We have another question from Umesh. Hello, ma'am, and sir, hello, sir, and ma'am. Is reservation applicable in PhD admissions? If yes, why are some reserved seats not filled in spite of a large number of applications? Is there a criteria of quality that overshadows reservation?
I think I don't remember last time, but I think the reservation is definitely applicable at the PhD program. But I don't know whether there was a cut-off mark, which usually happens in across various categories. That depends on, again, I think Delhi School follows the Supreme Court guideline about MA admission as well as PhD admission. So if there is a cutoff that's applicable, then people who are above the cutoff and depending on the vacancies, they're taken. And if there are cases where there is no cutoff applicable, then of course we take whatever according to the vacancy. So I don't think so. Delhi School follows the due guidelines, and I think due follows the whatever is the Supreme Court guideline regarding reservation. So that so if there are vacant posts, and then that would be only because there would be a cutoff level applicable, and if nobody qualified that cutoff level, then only then they remain vacant. But that cutoff level also has to come from the sort of
yeah, the reason this happens is that the UGC guideline about the PhD qualification is not is quite ambiguous, and so it, unlike in till the master's program where there is actually no cutoff for ST, SC and ST reservation. So you have to fill the seats irrespective of the marks obtained. The PhD program does specify a criteria. So that's the difference between PhD and till MA level. So even for SC/ST, yes. But OBC, I mean, even in masters, there is this 10% rule, cutoff rule. That cutoff will be reduced by 10%, but
Okay. I don't think we have any more questions, right, Arvind? Is there any more outside?
Okay, so I'm from another university, mostly non-mathematical, non-problem solving, and DSE is more inclined towards it. What are the odds that I would be able to get a seat for PhD program?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I can't find it.
Yeah, like DSC is more mathematical, and I'm from like more descriptive type of masters. What are the odds that I'll able to get a seat for PhD program?
Well, we can't say that because it's really, if you prepare well, then there's no reason why you can't crack it. Even if you are from a non-mathematical background. But again, as Anirban was also mentioning, and I also mentioned, because it requires problem solving, you might want to look up the textbook and solve the problems and practice beforehand. So that takes some effort and time. I can tell you that at least for master's program, which some of us find the question papers are tougher than PhD. Some of our master's program, people cracked that master's entrance test coming from chartered accountancy and so on. So if you put in the effort, try to prepare yourself well, so there is no reason to not to be able to crack it. But as I said, that will require a separate preparation. That will not become, if you're coming from a non-technical kind of a course work, then you have to prepare yourself separately. It will not be automatically happening through your course in a course work.
The thing about preparation is that it doesn't only necessarily prepare you just for the admission test, but remember, it also prepares you for the courses that you are going to encounter after you join the program, both for MA and PhD. Because if you prepare for problem-based admission test, it's also preparing for you for the let's say the MA courses that you will see in first year. You come in, you get into the habit of solving problems, after learning, it's not just learning the concept but solving the problem. Same for PhD, because in PhD program we have a 1 year coursework which you have to pass. Once again, the kind of the coursework, in coursework you will see papers which are sort of so-called problem based, and then so preparing for the entrance exam also prepares you for the coursework as well. And here I think, Aditi and Arushi, and this is to you, I think that's where the help is most needed. uh, if you are thinking about helping students out, I think think about how you can provide that help, because it's not easy, as you know, I don't have to tell you that getting into the habit of solving problems for students who are more not so familiar with it, so they need a bit of hand holding. And think about, if it's possible, to think about that.
Yes, sir. So this is a very important suggestion, and we are thinking about having some sessions around it. Um, yeah, we will keep this in mind. Thank you.
So, Aditi, another suggestion along that line, like, the way it happens for IIT entrance and so on. So if you can get a couple of more people into your group, and then try to, because you have gone through this, you have seen this. So if you Arushi and others, if you can just and then some kind of tutorial sessions about problem solving, I think that's probably where it can really, really help. Because as I said, if you get stuck, then who do you go to? There should be somebody, some sort of a structure which people can approach and say that, okay, this is how to go about it. Because otherwise it really can be very, very demotivating. You look at the question paper, you find that you can't solve many of these, and you feel that, oh, this is not my cup of tea. But Aditi, Arushi, that that's not true. So maybe you can get a few people together.
Yes, ma'am. We will think about it, and we'll carry this forward. Yeah.
Also, to add to what Anirban said, that to prepare yourself for the coursework when you take the entrance, that's absolutely true, because we know that in Delhi University, people who get very high scores can automatically come in without taking the entrance test. And our perception is that those who come through the entrance test typically do better, at least feel more comfortable in the first 2 semesters when they're doing the DSE coursework, simply because they have gone through that problem solving thing. Those who are otherwise, of course, getting a very high score in any university means that you have the caliber. But since you don't have the practice of solving those problems, some of these people stumble after entering the MA program, especially the first 2 semesters. So from that perspective also, as Anirban said, those practicing those problems prepare you well eventually for the first 2 semesters where it becomes very, very technical. And these are mostly going to be core courses. So it's not as if that you can opt for something where it's not technical.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Ma'am, there is another question by Jasmine. She wants to, she's requesting you to provide both sir and ma'am to provide a comparison of ME programs across different institutions. I think it's a interesting question because we know that there's a huge difference between the method that we follow at the school or ISI as compared to JNU and also IGIDR. So if both of you could share a little on that.
Can you repeat the question? I missed the first part.
Yes, sir. So it's a broad comparison of master's program in different universities. For example, ISI, DSE, JNU, IGIDR.
Comparison.
Yeah.
In terms of technicalities.
Yes, yes.
Don't know. I mean, I don't think.
Go ahead, Anirban.
No. I mean, I did my master's from ISI, and between ISI and this school, I don't see any difference. I don't have first-hand experience of JNU, which Mausumi may can tell you better. But IGIDR also, as far as I know, and as far as I have talked with faculty in IGIDR, I don't see much difference in terms of demand on technical skill. I think all of them, all of these places, they pitch about the same level, and you are if you get into the habit of problem solving, then all these places are similar. JNU same. JNU was different. I'm as I said, this is not first-hand experience, but JNU had a different advantage, which came from a very helpful campus, which is the environment was made very empowering by the students themselves, and of course with backing from teachers as well. But the course demand wise, I don't see any difference between these places. And also I want to add at least Ambedkar University with the same with the 4 that you have already mentioned. I highly I think it's as good as any other place.
Okay. My perception is that Delhi School, ISI, Ambedkar, they're pretty much the same in terms of the course structure. I've seen the Ambedkar, and good Anirban that I brought up Ambedkar. I think Ambedkar have a very fantastic faculty, very, very capable in multiple directions, not just technical. They also have a versatile faculty, so probably in micro, macro, math, all other kind of things. So that's a very great advantage of Ambedkar. I don't know about their hostels and so on, but you can find out. So don't rule that out. IGIDR is somewhere closer to DSE and ISI. JNU has multiple centers. So I know about 2 of the centers which run master and PhD program. One is called ITD, International Trade and Development Center. The other one is called CESP, Center for Economic Studies and Planning. I was in CESP, and ITD is again closer to Delhi School and ISI in terms of its course structure. Pretty much everything is very similar, including the textbook. CSP is a bit different. CSP is different simply because there will be courses, technical courses, but there is always a mix. So I have seen people who are sort of, not so comfortable with technical things, felt more comfortable going to CSP program. And now the reason could be multiple. One is that on all other programs, technical things are sort of, almost all courses will has a proportion. They can some commerce. That's one. Without it, of institution, India, to place and the technical problem immediately, and it is not just any the message technical. So it's not a but JNU has been balanced gives you a
Hello,
yeah.
ma'am, your voice seems to be breaking. Um, Hello, probably.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes, yes.
I think there is some network issue. I don't know. When was I audible when I was saying that TSC is slightly different?
Yeah, but I think we missed most of your answer on this one.
I see. Okay. All right. I'll just quickly sum up. So I was saying that ISI Delhi School, one center in JNU, which is called CITD, Center for International Trade and Development, and are very similar in terms of their course structure. And so is IGIDR and Ambedkar. JNU CSP is slightly different because that has a CSP course structure. Even the core courses have a mix of technical courses and slightly non-technical courses. So it is true that CSP is slightly different. And then in the optionals, you have all kinds. You can pick and choose. So if somebody is not very familiar with the technical things, then he or she might feel more comfortable initially in the first 2 semesters in CSP, and then they gradually pick up. But I was also saying that the reason why all the other institutions have moved to a more technical approach towards the coursework is not because it's their preference, but also because the profession itself the language in the profession has become very technical. So in a way, if you learn it early, then you become more sort of comfortable in that language. Technically, it's just a math is just a language, right? So that's why it's probably all the other institutions have moved in that direction. JNU is also still trying to maintain a fine balance, but then again, eventually somebody who is going for PhD will have to pick up those technical things as well. So they do that from PhD as well. But then in the first year, JNU has a more gradual approach, and the other institutions have moved directly to a technical approach. So that's the difference.
We have another question from Umesh. How important is to have references for admissions in PhD in foreign countries, and how difficult is to get references in DSC?
Yeah, go
Can you
ahead.
hear me? Anirban, so I think it's absolutely, Arushi can tell you that. So it's absolutely, probably that dominates everything else in terms of, getting good references if you want to go for PhD. So that first part of the question is that's one of probably the most important thing when you're applying abroad. So how difficult it is for to get recommendations and letters and references from DSE faculty in particular? Um, well, it really it depends because so it depends on your sort of connection with the professors, in the sense that somehow the professors will have to know you some way, inside the classroom, outside the classroom, through their interaction and so on. Because references are not good references if they're just, the professors are just repeating your mark sheet. Even if your mark sheet is, fantastic, because you have got 90% in every courses, if the teacher is just repeating that information the people over there already have. They have seen your mark sheet. They know how much, if you have got fantastic good grades or not. So getting good grades or not getting such good grades is not a big thing when you're applying abroad. I think references are not based only on your grades. References are probably not based on your, hardly ever based on your grades. It's always based on your the subjective interpretation of the or evaluation of the teacher, seeing you inside and outside classroom through interaction and so on. So once you do that, once you are kind of interacting with your students, have a chance to interact with your teachers and so on, I don't think getting references is very difficult. But you have to again put in that effort either inside the classroom or outside the classroom, because otherwise in a big class like Delhi school, the teacher often doesn't. That's another disadvantage of Delhi school, unlike other places like JNU and ISI, where every teacher pretty much knows every student. The student will not have to take any special initiative to, sort of go and talk to the teachers. But in Delhi school, sometimes in the first year for sure, the teacher hardly get to see the students. In optional, the problem is sort of less, because in an optional, automatically there is more interaction, there are presentations. The students also meet the teacher more often. They're less intimidated when they go to the second year and so on. So typically, references is not a big deal. But Anirban might have want to add to that.
No, I mean, it's, with this school, the problem is number of students. I mean, if there are 300 students, we hardly get to know anyone very well. I'm sure that it's much easier to get a recommendation in smaller programs in terms of number, like ISI, maybe even JNU, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, of course there is this problem, and yeah, it's very important to get a good recommendation later for your PhD program. So it is a problem, I mean, I would say.
Okay, I think we don't have any more questions. So unless you have closing remarks, ma'am and sir, maybe we can close the meeting. And thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us today. This was very helpful, and I'm sure more people have better guidance on how to prepare for the entrance. And I think we'll very seriously consider your suggestion about organizing some problem solving sessions. We are thinking of doing stuff like that with coding languages, with Stata, R, and Python. But I think definitely members would benefit greatly from just doing statistics, math, and game theory, etc. together. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for organizing the session. Thanks.
Yeah. And get back to us if you need any further help, have suggestions. Very welcome.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great.